Your Grace, Andrew Nkea, I want you to clarify public opinion on the issue of the church and politics. There's been a lot of debates about the church and politics, pastors and politics, with some holding firm to the idea that the bishop should not talk about politics. The pastors should not do politics. They should not talk about politics. They should concentrate on preaching the word, praying for the Christians, and so on.
This is a very thorny issue, but I think it is characterized by a lot of ignorance. There is what we call the social teaching of the Catholic Church. And that social teaching is not today. I mean, even going back, well, not very far. If you go to the Second Vatican Council in 1965, and you look at the post-conciliar document, Gaudium et Spes. Gaudium et Spes talks about the church in the modern world. And the church in the modern world has to act as the conscience of the society. The church does not do party politics. The church does not, and the members of the clergy are not allowed to get into party politics, to belong to political parties. But the church has the obligation to be able to look at society and point out the things that are going on that are not correct. This is the obligation of the church. That is why the church exists. So to tell me not to talk about the road to womb is to tell me not to be a pastor. Because that is why I exist. That is why I chose this vocation. God called me to be able to do this. And therefore, when we talk about the church not doing politics, it is a way of speaking. It's people who don't understand and people who don't know the church's role in the modern world, as stated in Gaudium et Spes and other documents. If you look at the way Pope John Paul II opened up modern tendencies to Eastern Europe that led to the fall of communism. What is that? That's politics. But it is politics that is not partisan. And therefore, like here in the Bamenda Archdiocese and in all our churches, we don't allow priests or ourselves as bishops to get into political parties or stand on the pulpit and say, vote this party and not this party, vote this person or not this person. We don't do that. That is not the work of the church. But the work of the church is to look at the society, look at the feeling of the people, the cry of the poor, and raise this cry of the poor to the authorities in power. That is our work.
Elections, or the presidential election, will be coming up in October. Should be coming up by October this year. What do you have to tell Cameroonians in general with regards to the forthcoming presidential election?
I think starting from April of last year, 2024, after the National Episcopal Conference meeting in Yaoundé, I insisted, following the mind of the bishops, that every Cameroonian should go and register. Every Cameroonian should go and register and should vote. Because the only way you can express yourself is by voting. So the step two, whether your vote is valid or your vote is not valid, whether it is stolen or not stolen, that's another aspect. We'll get to that aspect. Let us start from the basics. Go and register. And vote with a free conscience for the person you think will be able to run your country. This is what we are calling, the church is calling. And as I say, it is not my personal opinion. It is what our conference as bishops are looking into, and this is what we think. People should express themselves in the ballot box and not be talking only along the corridors. This is my first point. The second point is that we are also calling on the governing bodies that organize these elections to be as fair and transparent as possible, so that the people should believe in the elections. The elections should be credible, So ELECAM or whichever authorities are controlling elections should ensure that the people's votes are respected and that the elections are free, they are fair, they are transparent.
Thank you so much for your time and for the insight and wisdom you've shared with us in this edition of the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babila, and thank you for taking the trouble to come to Bamenda, where some people still fear to come. But as my last remark, people should not fear to come to Bamenda. They should come to Bamenda, and the more people come to Bamenda, the more they encourage us who are here to able to continue living and to rise above these difficulties that we have talked about. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you so much for your kind attention. God bless Cameroon. Goodbye.